Hey everybody, and welcome back to eCommentary. On today's episode, we're going to do things a little bit different because there is only me in the studio today. So what we've decided to do is we've decided to trawl through Reddit and pull out the most upvoted questions in the digital marketing Reddit threads. For those of you that don't know, my name is Andy Gray. I'm the founder of the Graygency. We're a digital marketing agency doing some amazing things for brands across the globe. And on today's episode, we're going to cover all things creative testing, the routes into digital marketing, and we're going to get a little bit deep on some of the most asked questions from Reddit. So I'd love you to sit back, relax, pull out a notepad, and enjoy the show. The first question today is coming from Julian Hoffer, and the question is how to scale Facebook ads. So to give you some context, I've been running a funnel for a clothing brand for over a year now. We've been maintaining a 6 ROAS and we have brought in over 200,000 this year. But when I seem to scale the best performing ads by duplicating ad sets and optimizing ads, the ROAS seems to drop down to a 2 or a 3. Should I be duplicating ad sets in the same campaign, or should I duplicate campaigns just trying to figure out how to scale faster while maintaining at least a 5 ROAS? So I think the starting point for me is always, why do you as a brand need a 5 ROAS in order to be able to scale? What are the factors that determine that number, and why is it a 5? Is it because your order quantities are too low so that you're not getting the margin from the suppliers? Is it in terms of the brand's growth strategy that you need to maximize as much revenue as possible? One thing that I would sort of start off by highlighting, especially running for a clothing brand, is that if you're holding out for a 5 ROAS, you're playing an entirely different game to some of the big players. So the big brands function on a much larger volume model, so that whilst you're waiting for a 5, they're comfortably scaling on a 2 and sometimes even less. And this problem becomes increasingly more difficult with the latest problems with attribution. It's becoming rarer and rarer to see a 5 or a 6 ROAS on the ad platforms. If we are talking about ROAS and we're not referring to MER or eROAS, then I think that what you need to look at is the real reasons behind that number. But in terms of scaling strategies, which is the bulk of the question, at a 6 ROAS and 200K in revenue, if my calculations are right, it's about 2.7K per month in ad spend. So my argument there would also be that spending 2.7K on ads, you're possibly just tapping into low-hanging fruit. So that what's happening with your Facebook advertising campaigns is that the algorithm is picking off people that are very, very close to purchasing. Spending around £100 a day, you can comfortably do that. Whereas when you start to try to accelerate your spend up, say that you try to double it, what you're then doing is you've run out of that low-hanging fruit and you're forcing the algorithm to go into more competitive auctions. And that's where you're starting to get a bit of a truer picture when you're actually scaling your budgets. So there's a couple of things that you can do if you want to try to maintain a stable ROAS. At that is looking into manual bidding, so setting target cost bids. And you're not going to get super high volume, but at the levels that you're at, you should be able to preserve the ROAS that you actually need. I think in the big picture, what I would also be really trying to work out, instead of looking for the 5 or the 6, try to work out your minimum viable ROAS. So that's the point in which you're profitable, but you're actually able to scale, so that you have an agreement with the company that you're working for, with the founder or the agency that you're working in, and you actually know the point where the client is happy to spend, because every client's going to be happy with a 5 or a 6, but the reality is that you could possibly be scaling at a 3, or if you're very lucky with your margin, at a 2. So that would be how I would approach scaling. Other methods of scaling, we have scaling by duplication. So that's duplicating your campaigns, just copying and pasting it. Key things to really focus on there would be, what is your source audience size as well, and also where is the ROAS being made. If it's all coming from retargeting and retention, then you're going to be limited to how much you can actually duplicate and scale. Whereas if your ROAS is being generated through an audience in the millions, then the possibilities of duplicating the campaigns or duplicating the ad sets within a new campaign, finding that best audience, duplicating it 5 times, keeping the budget quite low, is going to allow you to tap into different pockets of that audience. And hopefully there'll be some of them that will be more profitable than the others. And if you're managing that with automated rules, then you're going to be in a really good position to keep the ROAS that you actually need. I went a little bit deep on that one, so I hope it answers your question. But I think that my guidance for you there would be to really look at manual bidding as a great strategy. I am always hesitant to make big changes to campaigns that are working, so that if you have campaigns that are giving you the 6 ROAS and you're wanting to scale horizontally, then I would really think about creating new campaigns, because what you don't want to do is start making major changes by duplicating ad sets inside of a winning campaign, which then starts to force the algorithm to recalibrate. It's a major change. It can push everything back into learning. So hopefully that's helpful, and it gives you a bit of an insight into our approach to scaling. I think some other really good tips and tricks for scaling is about the level of budget adjustment, so that if you are going up in budget, so you want to scale vertically, one of the things that's really interesting with paid social, Facebook, Instagram, is that for a long time, Facebook advised of only making a 20% increase to budget to prevent putting the campaign back into the learning phase. And what we've actually found is that advice, or slightly more, up to 30%, is still running true. But what you can actually do is you can scale a campaign 20 or 30%, publish your changes, and then you can make the same scale again, so 20 to 30% again. And what that actually does is it preserves the learning in the campaign, so that you're not going to see the campaign going back into learning because you've made a significant change. And you can actually do this back to back to back to back to back. So instead of going from £10 to £100, you can scale it 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. And then as you're making these 20% scales, they compound, and then you get closer to the target budget that you were looking for. So give that one a try. It's worked for us for a long time, and it's allowed us to scale quickly throughout the day. The other thing that I would also talk about with scaling, and this is slightly more progressive than maybe where your budget is, but one thing I would really consider doing is starting higher with your daily budget. If you're only spending £100 a day on your advertising campaigns, start off with a daily spend budget of 250, so that your campaign plan is to 250, but your daily budget is going to be 100, because what we want to see early on in the day is where the progress is being made, where the positive signs are, so that it's so much easier to pause and cut budget than it is to get the budget to scale up, so that when we increase the budget on an ad account, it takes a while for that budget to actually increase. So by starting higher, you get more data early in the day, run your 10 a.m. check of your campaigns, turn off ads or ad sets, mainly turning off ads to preserve the learnings, but you can pause the ads in the ad sets that are underperforming and leave the ads in the ad sets that are performing running, and you're getting more spend through those. And then if you want to increase the budgets further because the performance is good, you can do that. But what you can also do there is maintain the ROAS, maintain the scale, and keep the pace quite high of your campaigns. And I've never known anybody get into trouble for scaling when they have an amazing performance. Sometimes you have to ask for forgiveness for being over budget, but usually when you follow it up with a caveat of we hit a 6 ROAS and we made a load of money today and everybody's happy, then it's not usually too big of a problem. So that's my go-to with scaling, how we're doing it. We've got a few more tips and tricks, but I'm not going to share those today. I think I've gone quite deep on scaling. Next up, we have another question, which is college tips for digital marketing. This is an interesting one because my background has nothing to do with digital marketing. I studied I studied law, went off and practiced sports for years, and ended up here running a digital marketing agency and really working with some incredible brands. So I'm quite interested to see where this question actually goes. Hello, I was looking for any tips I could get regarding a digital marketing degree. I'm 19 and I know I want to pursue digital marketing. However, with my current situation, I could either choose to get my degree fully online, in person at a college, or not getting a degree and completing a ton of online programs and getting certifications. I'm unsure what to do or where I should start. Nowadays, there are a ton of different opinions on how much a degree is needed or what kind of education is the best but for this specific field. I have no clue what the best route is. Anything would be helpful. I think this is an incredible question, because when you look at what's being taught in digital marketing courses at universities or in institutions, what you're seeing is that a lot of the information is actually outdated, and the platform is moving so quickly, it's almost impossible for a degree course to be kept up to date with the latest developments in digital marketing. But one thing that I would definitely say is that if you are looking to go into a career in digital marketing, pursuing a degree in maybe traditional marketing, or if you're thinking about working within e-commerce or D2C digital marketing, then taking a degree or an education in business, maybe something with economics or finance or traditional marketing, even psychology, are all amazing routes into what you'll be doing when you go into the agency world, because a lot of the work that we're doing it's about delving into customer personas, running a lot of calculations and analysis on data to help us to make decisions, so that when we're looking at a campaign, what we're trying to do is work out the different ways to improve, for example, the click-through rate of a piece of creative. And part of that is understanding consumer psychology. Part of it is knowing how to look at those numbers to make those decisions. So I think all of those types of degrees are really, really beneficial. When we're looking to hire, we're usually hiring people with those degrees. But then on the flip side, as an agency owner and someone who's took a slightly different route into marketing, I'm more interested in hiring people with passion for digital marketing. I want to hire people who spend their time on the internet reading Twitter threads on the latest tactics and strategy, people who are really, really interested in the campaigns that other brands are doing, and just looking for that passion, because that's going to be the driver when somebody gets into a job, about how quickly they develop and how quickly they can progress their learnings. So in terms of like a really good route in, it's really hard to give you a direct answer to that one. What I would say is that reach out to some agencies local to you, go in, get some work experience, start following some of the really smart people on LinkedIn, on Twitter, get into the Facebook groups online, and just start to consume as much content as you can. Because when you're then going into discussions with these agency owners, if you're up to date and you're talking on a level that even graduates with degrees or master's degrees aren't able to talk about, that's going to make you stand out from the others. And then there's also a lot that could be said for actually getting practical experience of working on accounts, even if it's just learning how to build an account, how to structure the audiences. So I think that it really depends on, do you want to go to college? If you do, then there's definitely degrees that can help you with that progression. If you don't want to go to college and you want to go straight into digital marketing, then I would just be reading everything that I could online, and that can be your education. That's been my approach to it. I consume so much content daily. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always sharing ideas and building a really cool network of smart people who can also help me to learn more and more. So, career advice today. That's a new one for me. So next question that came through: any recommendations for affordable email and SMS marketing automation platforms? I'm working with a client who wants to consolidate their email and SMS marketing efforts to one platform. Any advice or recommendations are greatly appreciated. I think that if you're wanting something that's consolidated all in one, then you really can't look any further than Klaviyo. I think that in terms of robustness of email, in terms of the flows, the campaigns, and automations, then it's a market leader. The SMS facilities to it are okay, but they're not as good as, say, a standalone SMS platform such as SMS Bump. But if you're wanting one tool that on the whole is super effective, then I think looking at Klaviyo. One of the things that I would also consider is where the trade-off should be. So which platform is driving the revenue? Is it email marketing or is it SMS? For example, if you need the features to drive revenue from flows and campaigns, then of course something that's a little bit more powerful with email marketing is how you would go for it. But I'm still not 100% that you should have all your eggs in one basket. For us and a lot of the clients and the brands that we're working with, we're using Klaviyo for email, which is fantastic. It's what it was designed for. And then we do use SMS Bump for the SMS campaigns. So I think that also what you can really start to tap into is the best tools for the collection of that first party data and the best tools for that, those opt-ins, because you also have to remember that for email marketing, you need a customer to be opted into email marketing, and you also need to have a separate consent for them for your SMS marketing. And that's why as an agency, we worked really hard to develop an integration with Shopify, whereby we're constantly seeking our customers' opt-ins to both platforms, and then we were able to cross-reference which customers are opted in for email and which ones are opted in for SMS and which ones are opted in for both. And what we actually try to do is we actually try to run campaigns to those customers to try to improve our opt-ins for both channels, which then allows us to use that to market more efficiently. Again, if you're in Europe with SMS, there are some rules and regulations that you need to follow, so make sure that you are checking your country-specific laws in terms of SMS marketing as well. So our next question is a really good one, and I'm going to really try not to pull a face while I read this one because I've already seen what it's about. So Facebook page likes for a client who is adamant. Hi, I have a client who is very adamant on getting Facebook page likes increased. He doesn't really care about the source of the page likes. I've tried convincing him on why Facebook page likes are not helping him. He just wants to look big on Facebook. I've used some panel platforms and got him a lot of likes. Recently, the number of likes I could get delivered from these third-party platforms have reduced. Do let me know if you know any sources where I could purchase Facebook page likes in bulk. So I think that my instant reaction is just don't do it. There is absolutely no benefit to hyperinflating your brand appearance. With a lot of these companies that do supply page likes, they will hyperinflate the number of likes for a short period, but then as Facebook goes through a wave of banning the accounts that have delivered these botted likes, then the number of likes on the page falls, which then again it can cause an issue for the consumer. What I would also say is that there's a number of challenges and difficulties that you're going to face long term if you actually indulge in a practice like this. So when you're running a middle of funnel performance campaign with Facebook and Instagram, one of the audiences that's super profitable is retargeting your Facebook page engagers. So that's anybody who's interacted with your brand on Facebook. This includes people who've engaged with your brand Facebook ads, but also your organic posts and also your organic following. So that what happens when you put in these likers who don't actually exist, and usually they're coming from countries that are probably outside of your core demographic, it's very unlikely that you'll get page engagers botted from the UK or the US, and there's a number of reasons behind that. One of them is that to set up an account you need a SIM card, and if you're buying a SIM card in the UK or US, then it's substantially more expensive than if you're going to buy a SIM card or an email address from the likes of Russia or India, where this practice is more commonly occurring. So what happens is these page likers engage with your page, they follow your page, and then when you come to run your retargeting, Facebook can't retarget people who don't exist. They're not browsing Facebook, they're not browsing Instagram, so that your ad campaign performance really drops. But then also going one step further on that is that when you then want to build lookalikes of people engaging with your page or your Facebook engagers, you've actually polluted that audience with, again, people that don't exist, so that you're going to pay for it in the long term. And the goal of any brand that's scaling is, even if you're not using Facebook and Instagram ads just now, in the future, if you're trying to build a brand, you're going to need to rely on this. And this is something that we have seen happen with brands. And what we've actually had to do is we've had to really look at shortening that Facebook engagement window so that we can only work with people who've engaged with the brand in the past 30 days to bring this process up and to get the campaigns delivering super profitably. So where you can, I would really try to avoid it. One solution that you might want to apply is running a page post engagement campaign on Facebook. So this is an engagement campaign where you're trying to get likes on a Facebook post run through the ad platform to your target demographic. And one of the really useful things that you can do is that when somebody likes or reacts on your post, good or bad, you actually have the ability to then go into that post and invite that person to come and like your page, so that if you can deliver some good content that's going to raise that engagement, then you can go through, you can invite those people to like the page, and you should see around a 20% conversion for that, which will give you the likes. It's way more expensive than outsourcing your likes from somewhere else, but at least the people liking it are going to be real, they're going to be genuine, and you can use that information in the future. That's one tactic that you can use. And then if you try to use a manual placement for that, so that you're just restricting that to the Facebook feed, then again, you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to rack up the engagers. That's a really nice way to do it. And also combining that with, if you ever do get some really nice PR coverage, a celebrity endorsing your brand, and you can use that with a page post engagement campaign, then that's another way for you to boost your page likes. What we also do for brands that want to improve in this area, because I do understand the importance of building that social proof, but it should be done properly. What we try to do is, as part of our creative testing, we're always running some of our creatives through as a page post engagement campaign to try to work out which image performs the best. And what that naturally gives us is it gives us a pool that we can invite to the page, and we're also using the campaign to gain some really valuable data in terms of which pieces of creative we think are going to perform the best. So in short, don't do it. But if you're going to try to boost the engagement, then go through the advice and the tips that I've just dropped there. I think that would be super useful for you. Is it bad to pause Instagram ads? Hey guys, I know it's bad to pause ads in Ads Manager, but what about ads via the in-app boost post feature? I think where I'll probably take this is it's the same for both. So the question is it bad to pause Instagram ads? And I think this is the real question to answer, so that if you're doing it platform specific, there's no real difference to stopping it if it's in Ads Manager or if it's a boosted post. So what happens, and the starting point for this piece of advice is that you've got to think about the ads platform is an auction. So what you have is you have a budget that's usually set daily, and then you have 24 hours in that day. And naturally what Facebook will do and Instagram will do is they'll pace your bidding so that between certain hours, usually between say 2 a.m. and 5 or 6 a.m., you'll see a slowdown in that marketing spend, because Facebook knows that the real opportunities for conversions usually occur between the hours of 6 and maybe 1 in the morning. So that what happens is, if you're setting a daily budget and you pause your ads during the night, what you're then doing is you're forcing Facebook to spend the budget during the day, and it needs to spend the budget because that's the budget that you've set for it. So it's gonna push that spend, and what it does is it can actually push spend inefficiently because you're forcing the algorithm to spend at your pace. That means that if it's got a shorter window to spend it in, you're forcing it to spend. And where we've seen much better performance is to say, yes, we know that between these certain hours, there's going to be times when the ad platform is showing ads to people who are maybe coming home from a night out, they're too drunk and they're not going to buy, or maybe it's people who aren't your target demographic. But by keeping the data coming through, long term, this helps to optimize the advertising campaign. And Facebook's algorithm is fueled by data, so that if you start to restrict the data that's being fed to the platform, you actually cap its ability. And all of the materials from Facebook, when we're talking about Power 5, structure for scale, all of these different concepts, it's all about giving the algorithm control, giving it data, giving it spend to work with for it to be able to give you the best results possible. Like, be in no doubt whatsoever, like Facebook and Instagram as a platform want you to get the best results you can get out of their platform, because if you get great results, you spend more money, you fuel their development. That's what they want you to do. They don't want you spending money on Google, on TikTok. They want all the money pushed through their platform. It's great for their end of year reports. It's great for their stock prices. It gives them more stability. So what I really, really believe in is that you've got to just keep your campaigns running 24/7. And you've got to just fuel as much data into that algorithm as possible. So I think it's a bad thing to pause ads overnight. I don't believe in day parting at all, unless it's for a specific reason. Gosh, that's a really good one. And again, I'm pretty passionate about like how we run our Facebook ads. I think as well, there are times where we have run like day parted campaigns, and I remember writing a LinkedIn post about this during I think it was during Love Island in the UK, which was a big TV show. So there was an overview of how much it was actually costing for a 30-second TV advert during Love Island, and what I tried to show is like how you're actually able to run something comparative to that on social at the right times without spending the thousands and thousands and thousands to have an advert shown on TV. And it's the same for the Super Bowl. If you run a lifetime budget campaign, you can select the times that advert will run, and then accelerating the spend during those periods with a super high budget is going to get you to the top of the feed, to the top of the placement in that key window with a crucial message. And we've had some really good success with that, especially selling bikinis during Love Island. It's a killer tactic. So if you want to have a look at that one, then maybe have a look on our LinkedIn. And now we're at our last question, which is geo-targeting Facebook ads. Hey guys, I tested some creatives and I targeted USA, Oz, Canada, UK, and New Zealand. I found best performing creatives and almost 90% of my sales came from the USA. Now I want to find a new audience, and should I use the only USA for targeting now? Yeah, really good question again. And I think there's always got to be a little bit more context to these questions, so that what I need to do is I need to fill in some of the blanks. Some of the things that we really, really need to consider is like, what is your budget? Where is your business trading? Do you have a warehouse in, for example, in Europe or in the UK that has stock tied up there? Because if you have stock sitting in a warehouse in the UK and all you're doing is selling in the USA, then you're going to end up with dead stock in a region. So there's so much context to this in terms of budget and further information. But assuming that that you're working through one distribution center, and you want to find additional audiences, if 90% of your sales are coming from the USA, if your budget is limited, then what I would really, really try to do is I would try to work on running the creative that's worked within the USA to relevant US audiences. And I would try to increase my spend so that if I can keep 90% of my sales coming through the USA and I can spend more and I can increase my store revenue whilst maintaining that 90%, then I'm going to keep doing that until I reach a point where I have a diminishing return in that region. So that means that I'm spending a lot of money, but I'm not seeing the growth rates that I was seeing before, and that I need to diversify our geographical targeting for our campaigns. I think that quite a nice transition from the USA is Canada. Again, it depends on your distribution center and how the taxing works in terms of import tax if you're going through a distribution center in the US. But what we've found is that what works in one region is unlikely to be copied and pasted to another region. And we've seen this quite a lot with brands where they're operating on a global scale, and even down to the point of using interest targeting. So picking an interest that absolutely crushes it in the USA and then trying to apply that to the UK, you can see really, really different results because audiences are different, but also going back to my point from earlier, that the Facebook ads platform is an auction. And in the auction, you have different bidders in different regions. You may be winning the auction in the USA and you may be losing the auction in the UK. So that if you are looking to diversify your geo-targeting, what you need to start to do is you need to start to run your audience testing protocol for each region. So set this up in a campaign, run your audience testing for the different regions. Of course, the obvious place to start would be what is working in the USA, so that if you do have interest-based audiences or lookalikes that are working in the USA, then applying those to the UK would be a logical starting point. But what I would also try to do is build up my audience research in the region and tap into the different demographics. So who is my customer in the UK? What do they look like? What are they interested in? And then start to test those audiences, start to look for those early signs of promise, start to see where those early sales are coming through from. And then once you've got those, you can then graduate those into your scaling campaigns and start to increase your budget. But what I always recommend is that when you do go into a new region, don't assume that you have everything worked out. There's nuances in copy, there's nuances in creative, and there's nuances in audience in each of these regions. So I could go on about this one for quite a while in terms of how we go through testing as a protocol, but I think that probably gives you some really, really actionable steps for diversifying your geo-targeting. And today's been a one-man band episode. It's just been me here answering some of your amazing questions. And if you do have more questions like these, make sure to send them in to us at info@thegraygency.com, or drop us any of your questions on all of our social media channels. We're quite active on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And of course, we'll respond to mails directly so that maybe we can have another round or pull in one of the consultants from our team to get maybe slightly different take on how they approach these things, or maybe more of a ground level in terms of their access into the career in digital. But we've got more guests lined up in the coming weeks. If you love this kind of generous ideas giving, then make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the podcast. We're on all of the channels. What we're really trying to do here is just elevate the knowledge with actionable advice taken from our experience working over a number of clients, a number of brands, so that collectively everybody's level is lifted. And as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's our approach to all of this. So if you have any comments or anything that you'd love to add, we'd love your questions and feedback in the comment section. And make sure that if you are listening on Apple or on Spotify, we would love a 5-star review. I've been Andy Gray. This has been eCommentary. We hope to see you back here soon.